Hey guys, this is the MTG Noob here with
Coach JBK, Josh.
Coach. Come on, Coach. What are you not ready to teach people how to get better here?
I was quicker than the last one.
All right, so in this episode of For the Noobs, we're gonna just go over some quick points and quick tips on how to get better at Magic. All right,
Yes.
so let's get into it. The first tip, and these are in no particular order, is to play with better people. Just as if you want to get better at anything, playing with someone or doing it with somebody who is superior than yourself will help you learn so much just from watching and seeing how they actually do things, how they use their cards well, how they get themselves out of jams, and it's really overall a really, really important tip, I feel. What do you think, Coach?
I agree. We've got the MTG tutor on the site where we've got professional Magic players that are available to tutor people, so that's what that whole situation is about. I've gotten a lot better by playing with some of the guys on the site and on the stream as well, like Andy. I think we've played a few times, but I'm not certain I got any better there.
Yeah, I hear you, Coach. I don't think I've gotten much better playing with better people because I usually take the easy road out and I try to beat up on people that are better or that are worse than myself.
hmm
But, I'm always in that Swiss queue trying to smash some noobs and then be a hypocrite and then be like, oh, I'll help you after I smash you. But the thing that you said there, which is our next tip, is playing often. The more you play, the better you will get. It's just repetition. You learn about cards, interactions. You see different game states, and the more you do something, the old saying, they say practice makes perfect.
They
Well,
say that.
I don't think you could ever be perfect since Magic is such a game of up and downs and luck and everything, but you can be as close to perfect if you keep at it.
Yeah, I agree. When I go down to my shop, which is like once a month, and play physical Magic down there, I feel like I'm definitely ahead of the curve just from playing online a good bit.
Yeah, I hear that. I think I've also gotten better playing online. And speaking about playing online, playing online is always, in my opinion, easier than getting a whole bunch of people together. So that's a really good way to get good quick if you have the resources for it. Another important tip is looking back at your games. This is kind of a hard one to understand, but essentially it just means like you're replaying the game through your mind and looking for various points in the game where you think you could have made another play decision that would have changed the outcome. And this is really, really important because it not only helps you increase your memory function in recognizing game states, but it lets you learn from your mistakes. And they always say you learn more when you lose than when you win all the time.
hmm
And really important, really quick, is you can actually discuss what would have been done differently with other players around, maybe even your opponent or somebody who's watching your game, a friend. I remember when I was trying to get really good, which never quite happened, I would always say, hey, after our match, do you mind if you let me know what you would have done in this situation? And more often than not, as long as you're not playing against a real jerk, people are always willing to help you and try to increase the play skill of you so that you could make it more of a challenge for them in the future, I feel.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think probably 90% of games that I replay, the main thing that I would change is not loading up a bunch of enchantments and stuff on one creature, because then you get launch party or something like that, and then you're just left with nothing.
Yeah, and even like when I watch Coach play and I watch Coach's game, like just from an outsider looking in, I'm like, Coach, you could have won that if you were more aggressive here, or you try to attack there instead of played it safe. And even though our play styles differ greatly, our play styles, I think since saying that, Coach has now been slightly more aggressive.
Yeah, I definitely think so.
Yeah, I think, he's been taking a little bit more of the MTG noob steroid and just been road raging it all over the place in his Magic games.
Right. Instead of waiting until I play my second Horncaller's chant, I go ahead and swing with the first two tokens.
It's a beautiful thing. All right, let's move on. We're talking about taking notes next. Now, notepads, if you watched our last video, which you should have, are good for many things: paper and planes, origami, pterodactyls, keeping totals. But take notes of your game. You can write down what cards your opponent played, what cards you think they might play, their bombs, how your game played out. The thing is, you just don't want to spend your whole time in your notepad during the match, because not only is it probably annoying to play against, but you got to be really conscientious of your clock when you're playing in tournament matches. But I think there's a lot of people I know who are very good players that take notes often. And if you don't have one of those photographic memories, a notepad is, I guess, the next best thing.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of unnerving if you show up to the table with a notepad and you are just scrutinizing what someone looks like and making notes, just focusing on maybe facial features, asking them if they've gotten a mole checked out recently, etc., and scribbling in your pad. It breaks a man down.
Yeah, just throw their mugshot for after when you whoop that they beat you up because of all these sweet tips.
Yeah.
All right. The next tip is coming up with a plan. Now, obviously, Magic is an ever-changing game. What I mean by coming up with a plan is, it's good to play out creatures. It's good to know when to attack, when to block, and things of that nature. But ultimately, the game is to win. Like, that's the name of the game. That's the objective. So if you're in it and you create this strategy, all right, this is my plan, I'm going to stick to it, and this is my route to victory, you'll find yourself visualizing success more often, and I think you'll be able to pull it off than if you just go, I'll swing with this creature because that seems right.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you.
Lots of input on that one, huh, Coach?
Yeah.
Plans are good.
Well, I mean, I think a good thing to ask yourself is looking at a deck after you build it, not just taking the best cards, trying to create some synergy, and then asking yourself the question, how am I going to win? What's my plan for winning the game? Not just throwing down creatures and hoping you just get there eventually. Coming up with some kind of a win condition plan.
Yeah, and speaking to that, coming up with a plan, we have two more quick points that kind of go with it. And the first one is thinking a few turns ahead. All the great chess players in the world can think 4,000 turns in advance. And with Magic, you can set up your next few plays. And it's really important to do your thinking in your mind. I know a lot of times I'll catch myself physically counting, out loud or with my fingers and pointing to things. And it allows your opponent to get so much information. Mm-hmm. It's really good to do all of this thinking on their turn instead of on your turn. This way you don't waste too much of your clock and you're ready to go and you're ready to make smart decisions when the ball is in your court.
Yeah, I think Andy Lairbear is really good at thinking a few turns ahead. If you ever watch him stream, I saw him stream today, and he was talking about that he could win in 2 turns because blah, blah, blah. He was constantly thinking about what his opponent could do and life totals and so forth.
Yeah, it's really good to plan out the math. If you have 8 power on the board and everything goes right and they're at 16, you can hypothetically kill them in 2 turns if you do X, Y, and Z. And that's what we mean when we say, come up with a plan, think a few turns ahead. And when you're not winning, another important tip is play to your outs, which means, all right, well, let's say I have 1 card in my deck that'll pull me back into this game, whether it's, a Supreme Verdict, a Terminus, a Big Sphinx's Revelation. Any 1 card on the top of my deck that will get me out of this situation. You have to play it out. So many times people concede games early, and when they do, if they would have just played it out, they might have had a 1% chance of winning. But you learn a lot from playing games out. You also, must go with the never say die attitude, in my opinion, unless your clock is ticking and you really don't have that much time left and you want to take it to like a game 2 or a game 3.
Yeah, I think that's why board wipe is so good, like Supreme Verdict or Terminus, as you mentioned, just because they're outs, for any bad situation you get in. And you might never need them, but it's nice to know that you could pull them to get you out of about anything.
Yeah, definitely. All right, another key point is you're a noob if you're watching this video, most likely. Maybe you're not. But when you go to a tournament, you're probably going to be worse than your opponent, unless they're a noob as well. And it's very easy to become intimidated and get caught up in that. It's also when you go to a tournament and you feel more confident and you know that you're playing against a better player, whether it's a semi-pro or a pro or you have your first on-camera match. It's so easy to get caught up in the moment and really let it overwhelm you. If that ever happens, just realize it's just a game. Your deck is going to do what it's going to do. You're going to pilot it as best as you can, and if you screw up at the end of the day, it's going to suck, but it's just a game.
Yeah, I think also on the flip side, getting too cocky against poorer players is something that you can also do. The other day, I was playing a game. Opponent played a turn 1 Caracal, played a turn 2 Urban Burgeoning, and I was like, it's on, and then ended up losing. So I think not getting cocky is also important.
I mean, another tip, just speaking of that, is I often, if I think I can beat an opponent, I often keep way sketchier hands because rather than mulliganing, because I really feel like I'll just outplay them, and that's the stupidest thing you could do because those are the games where they just go 1 drop, 2 drop, 3 drop, you're dead.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, oh man, I can't believe that happened. This guy is so much worse than me. Blah, blah, blah. So don't get intimidated by better players and don't be a bully and just stick to your game plan and you should be fine. And just a quick point that I've thought up. Let's just discuss mulliganing quickly. If you want to get better, you got to learn how to mulligan. It sucks getting less cards, but a quick point is just think, is this 7-card hand better than a 6-card hand? Is this, and then the next level of mulliganing is this hand going to do anything? If you know you're playing against an aggro deck and you have like 3 6-drops and 4 lands, you're going to be dead before you cast anything. Mm-hmm. So mulliganing, we'll probably spend, another video on that. I just 2 quick tips there. Just make sure you mulligan wisely and don't let it intimidate you. Sometimes you're going to have to mulligan or you won't give yourself a shot at winning, and sometimes you have to mulligan hands that seem okay, but you got to get them into a spot where you can actually win the game, which would be part of coming up with a plan.
Yeah, still working on that one.
Yeah, me too. I think that's going to be an ongoing project till I'm dead. And the last tip we have for you, I'm sure we have overlooked a few. More or less, we're just doing this to get the new players out there. So if anybody wants to help out, leave comments. We'd love that. It's very helpful for the new players. So thank you for commenting on the last video, and always welcome to comment on the new ones. Our last tip for the night is to call a judge. Now, there's so many times where you might not know something, and calling a judge can simply answer the question you have. However, on the flip side, 2 things to point out about judges. Judges cannot give you the way to play it correctly. So keep that in mind. They're not going to be able to affect the game state. They will be able to answer a rules question or a card text or something like that, but they can't say, yeah, if you do it this way, you'll have the outcome that you want. So that means you have to really know your cards, which is a whole nother tip in itself, but we're not going to, we'll go over that in a future video as well. But the thing is, judges are humans. And I don't think people realize this. You can always appeal to a higher level judge, unless obviously they're the highest level of judges is the one you're speaking to. If you call a judge and you don't like the outcome, you don't think they're correct, politely just say, I'd like to appeal to a different judge, and then you can, see if you're correct or see if the other judge was wrong. But judges are there to help you, and if you have a question or a concern, your opponent's being a jerk, they're cheating, whatever, just raise your hand, call up judge. That's their job. That's what they're there for.
Yeah, I agree.
Good tip at the end, right, Coach?
Yeah, exactly.
I am going to call a judge on how many times you've agreed today.
Yeah, all right.
I hope this other edition for the noobs, how to get better in a short amount of time, or whatever the heck we're going to title it, helped you out. Like I said, any tips are always welcome in the comments section. Thanks for watching. Please check out the MTG Noob. This is the MTG Noob himself saying goodnight. And Coach?
I agree.
All right, Coach. Thanks.